And it
Let's
is
do it.
19th. All right. What's up, everybody, and welcome to episode 13 of High Input Games. My name is Nick, aka The Wild One, and joining me, as always, Chris Kodiak and DJ Mike. We've got 3 stories on the news docket for you guys, as usual, but before I get to that, a little housekeeping. First up, if you'd like to support the show, go over to patreon.com/high input games, where bronze level subscribers can get the show ad free and silver level subscribers and above can get access to the post show. Before we get started, I got a little part of the show where I like to ask my friends what they've been playing this week. I myself have been digging into a little Assassin's Creed Valhalla. Chris, what have you been playing? Tell me.
Lots of things, but probably the thing that stands out the most was the Apex update. I really dove into the Apex update pretty hard and heavy, learning how to use the vehicles and the crafting mechanics because I missed last season. So did a little bit of learning on what Apex was all about on their new season update, and the new map is pretty badass. Had a pretty good time with it so far.
That's awesome. What season is that now? Is that 4?
7.
I think it's like 7 or 8. Yeah, 7.
It's 7.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right on. No, interesting.
7.
Mike, you been playing some games this week?
You know what? Actually, I did play a couple of rounds of Apex Legends, but I have not yet had time to play much else. I'm hoping to dive into a bunch of Valhalla more this weekend.
Yeah. No. Awesome. Very, very awesome. And yeah, like I said, I've been playing a lot of Valhalla. We'll get into that a little bit later. I really, really, really enjoy the game. I think it's definitely worth a buy. But without further ado, let's jump into what has been basically the biggest news of the day. And that is the headline is that the Game Awards have been announced. And we have the contenders for the Game Awards in the different categories. And I think Chris is going to run us through, casually run us through the list. And as we go through the list, we'll start to comment on certain things. You should start probably with leave Game of the Year until last.
Okay.
And let's just dive into, you can pick
Sure.
and choose the rest however you want.
Yeah, so there were a couple ones that kind of jumped out at me that I'm personally a little excited about. Probably the biggest subcategory that I'm most excited for is going to be the best art direction. Let me see. Yeah, best art direction. Yeah, because there's a game on there that I've been playing a lot of hours into, and that's Ori. Most of these games run pretty concurrent. This one had a little standout here with Ori and Will of the Wisp. Best art direction up for it is the Final Fantasy VII Remake, Ghost of Tsushima, Hades, Ori, Will of the Wisps, and of course Last of Us Part 2. In my opinion, Last of Us Part 2 will probably sweep a lot of these categories. However, that's up for debate.
Best art direction's tough when you got games like Will of the Wisps and Hades.
Yeah, I was going to say, if anything deserves it, Ori, Will of the Wisps, and Hades. That's where there should be a little concession, and maybe, although Last of Us Part 2's art direction was 10 out of 10, it's going to be hard not to give it to them, but I think they're got enough here on the plate that we can give a little shout out to games like Hades and Will of the Wisps. I'm not sure the Final Fantasy VII Remake is going to compete, nor is Ghost of Tsushima on art direction.
Ooh.
I don't know.
I don't know.
We'll see.
Ghost of Tsushima has a beautiful art direction because of the way that they have the different filters that you can ride over the top of the gameplay, and then the varied landscapes where you've got like the flowers and the mountainsides and the grassy, weedy fields. And I also agree with Mike that Final Fantasy VII.
There's a reason it's on there, right? I mean, it's not a mistake that it's there.
I'm not saying it's a mistake. I'm just saying I'm curious if it's going to even be in the same conversation when it comes down to the wire on top 3 on this. I would go Hades, Ori, and Last of Us on the top 3 on that list. But
Mike, give me your 3 right now. Chris,
Game of the Year?
Chris, can you write these down for us on a bit of paper so that we have these?
Yeah. I can do this. So top 3 on art direction, Mike. Out of Final Fantasy Remake.
Make sure you pick yours too. You got yours too, Chris. You said yours.
Top 3 on art direction.
Yeah.
That's tough. I think that I would probably go Hades, Ori, and Final Fantasy.
I'm gonna go Ori.
Mike, you said Hades, Ori, and Final Fantasy?
Mm-hmm.
And what's yours, Nick?
And I guess we don't really need to do the 3 because there's only going to be one winner. So you should really just pick one, right?
All right, so what's your number 1 pick, Mike?
Mine is Ori and the Will of the Wisps, I think.
That was my pick as well. But man, Hades is a close second. I don't know.
It is, but I remember the intro to Ori. No spoilers, but when somebody close to Ori passes away, I felt that moment like I was
Ori's the
watching
most
a
beautiful
Pixar
game.
movie.
I've never played a game as beautiful as that. Honestly, it was.
Are you sure not even Tetris?
So talk shit. But I was gonna preface that by saying the only game in recent memory is that Tetris connected game. Like no
And
bullshit.
Journey.
No, Journey was all right, but not even in the same breath as Ori. Not even close.
I'm surprised you guys didn't.
All right, so I would probably also go with Ori.
So we're all going Ori.
It's a gorgeous game.
That's fair.
I mean, how can you not? That entire game is about the art. It's art that literally feels.
And
right
I believe
when
that
you're
obviously
playing it.
some of these are going to obviously be cut and dry and paste, or cut and paste. It's going to be very obvious to some, at least to us. We have similar points of view, which is going to be the winner. But for this one, I
Animal
certainly
Crossing.
believe that because we've all played. That's why I think we're going to get decisive when it gets to Game of the Year. I think what does Game of the Year mean? But we'll get to that when we get to
Yeah.
that. Chris, what else we got?
Okay, we have Best Narrative, which there is a game on here that I've never even heard of before.
Ooh.
This 13 Sentinels. I must have missed it. I don't know if I was not part of this conversation, but I have no idea what game that is.
I'm going to pull
Fairly
it up.
certain that's also an RPG.
Aegis Rim. I might be mispronouncing that, but
Pulling up the review right now. Mike, you can pull up a little.
It is PlayStation 4 worldwide release was September 22nd this year.
I'm watching gameplay of it right
Oh,
now.
I should know this because this is an Atlas game and they make fantastic top-down RTSs.
I know why it's not originally. I know why it didn't originally stand out to you, Chris. Is it doesn't look like a game that came to the West immediately.
It didn't. It was in Japan first.
Yeah, it got 8 out of 10 on IGN. Fantastic.
Yeah, no, Atlas makes very good games.
so the question is, out of
Japanese
best
developer.
now we played these other ones here: Ghost of Tsushima, Final Fantasy VII, Hades, and Last of Us Part 2 for Best Narrative, along with this 13 Sentinels. Do we have any guesses or predictions on games that we think? Do you think Final Fantasy is going to be in the conversation for Best Narrative? I mean, you guys both played the hell out of that. Do you think they could compete?
I think it's
against
very,
Last
very
of Us?
worthy in the conversation for best narrative because, and now we're going to touch into some spoilers here. Mike's fully aware of the spoilers. Chris, you know of this one at least, and I've given you guys time now to hit pause. This is what everybody does, a little bit of time.
Remake.
The game knows that it's a remake. It's fully aware that it's a remake. The game is trying to stop you from changing it. So there are parts in the game where you can physically feel like there's a part on the tower where one of the main characters is supposed to die, but the game, you find a way to save them, but the game still forces these strange ghost-like things to kill that person so that you can't change time even when you think you can. And there's some twists that come towards the end, but I think that that's what puts that in best narrative, is that they put a remake and they blended it with a whole new story, and it still managed to get rave reviews from everybody who played the title. So that's why I think it deserves to be there. Do I think it is going to win best narrative? No. For this one, for me, up and down, The Last of Us Part 2. The way that they pull you around in that one, left, right, and center, is and I haven't played Ghost of Tsushima, but I don't think that it's going to come past Tilu. I think Tilu is
the game that talks about narrative. There's no conversation about narrative if that game's not at the top of the list.
I think you guys are underestimating the narrative in Hades. It's very good.
Well, I don't want to say
very,
we're underestimating.
Actually, I would say most of that game is the narrative. Yes, the roguelike action play is a lot of the game, but you stay for the narrative. You stay for the combat too, but you really. I mean, every time you die, what everybody changes says. You learn something new about your dad, Hades. You go and have a conversation with him every time, and he's always got something asshole to say. I mean, it's incredible how much they put into the narrative of that game.
Well, it is remarkable that every category here, with exception to best audio design, and best performance, Hades is in in these top five. Every single category has Hades in it. You know, I mean that's pretty
And I
remarkable.
could be undercutting them or selling them because I haven't played it. It really didn't look like my jam. I know a lot of people have had a lot of fun with it. I think I'm
check out some of my videos with it. Just check out like one of the like the first one I did is from the beginning of the game to like an hour and a half or something like that in. So you get some of it, but it's a really fun game, and you find yourself getting so angry at dying, but you're like, fuck it, I'm gonna go in. This time I'm gonna get further. I'm gonna try this weapon out.
Like that.
When you die, you get different skill. You've accumulated skills that you can upgrade so that you can try. You just fell.
No, I dropped it on purpose.
Oh,
Yeah.
It looked like you were going in an elevator.
Yeah. Dude.
But it's a lot of fun. That's actually one that I might dive into tonight again.
Well, I think I was wrong with what I was talking to you earlier about best VR game. I don't think that was the conversation. Alex is actually under best game direction. So we have a game here, best game direction category. Final Fantasy VII Remake, again, Ghost of Tsushima, Hades, Half-Life Alyx, and The Last of Us Part 2. So it seems like the four main games here, and then they've kind of thrown in a fifth little rotating one for each one of these categories almost. Do we think best game direction, again, Mike, you haven't played The Last of Us Part 2, so I don't want to get into too many spoilers about this, but the way they change the way the player feels about certain characters throughout the game is like nothing ever made. So again, I'm curious if any of these games have been revolutionary enough to the conversation to take a game like a category like best game direction and take it. I really believe Last of Us Part 2 is going to do a full sweep on most of these categories, but
same except for game of the year.
I think 7 could actually be a pretty strong direction fight, right, Nick? I mean,
for what? For best game direction? Yeah, I would say that.
I mean, that's actually not a bad fight there, because 7 was a really bold remake.
It was so good, and the direction was so great.
And
but there's one thing
they could have fucked that up so easily.
They could have. They could have. After playing them both through to completion, and they both felt like top tier PS4 games. Like if they're both in their prime. I want to give it to Final Fantasy, but I can't.
You want to?
No, I want to.
Kid in you that wants to give it to it, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
but it's like seeing the characters that you're in love with in The Last of Us grow from part 1 to part 2, and realizing the most beautiful thing is that they didn't take the story in a direction that I was hoping they would. They just blew me away. I was like, oh my god. I just don't know if I felt that way when I was done with Final Fantasy. Like at the end of Final Fantasy, when you're fighting Sephiroth, it was awesome, but like you knew you were going to fight him at some point because of you played Final Fantasy in 1997. But in The Last of Us Part 2, no spoilers, I won't even go there. They do things in that game that, like Chris said, they fundamentally change the way you feel about people that you love. Mm-hmm. You start to think that they're either selfish or foolish instead of brave. And you used to think they were these brave, kick-ass, and now you're like, well, tone it down a bit. You might be the source of some of your problems.
Yeah, they do a great way of when they're talking about revenge, because that's the whole concept and theme of the game is revenge, right? And
not even an undertone, huh?
It's the theme. It's the general hardcore theme of the game, and then they don't just discuss whether revenge is worth it. They actually take the entire theme of revenge and show you how she's not wrong for wanting revenge. However, you can now see the effects your revenge has in such an organic way.
And it really never has an end point to it.
No, there isn't.
Until you meet your destruction.
But that's because that's how revenge works, right? Like, even though the most tragic thing that could ever happen to you for someone else, most times, I mean, sometimes there's senseless violence, but sometimes there's a logical reason for everything. And the way they portrayed that, I thought was the most badass thing I've ever seen in a video game or any form of entertainment.
Again, without spoilers, giving Abby a reason to love her and to understand her in the way that they did, I believe, is story direction that is it's well thought out.
I told you, bro,
Well,
when we were playing through that game, and I said if they don't make me not want to shoot her in the head at the first chance I get, this game is
Yep.
trash. And they didn't
Yep.
just make me not want to shoot her in the head; they made me love her. And it was like,
Yep.
what? How did you
Yeah.
do that? You know, it was like,
and it's almost like now and you hated her so much in the first third of the game.
right.
Playing it again is warranted because
Yeah.
you know how much you'll love Abby later. You want to learn about her more
Yeah.
in that strife time.
Yeah, yeah.
Let me ask you guys a question here.
for it.
How interesting do you find it, and is it a problem for Microsoft that there's no Xbox exclusives on here?
I don't think it's a problem. It's nice to
because
see.
of the quality of the games, right? I mean, if we had a Halo game, probably be on there. We don't.
Yeah, but it's expected at this point in time to not have many Xbox exclusives. They have now just bought many first-party studios, and they've told us that Initiative Studios, Bethesda Studios are all working very, very hard on probably 2021's good, Gangstar lineup. It's okay. I'm going to give Xbox a pass on this one and say they've openly come forward and said, we get it. We don't have any first-party games. We put our money where our mouth is. We're buying studios for $7 billion. Yeah, man, I'm cool with that. Let's hopefully next year we've got something else to sing about. And like you said, I think before the podcast, next-gen games aren't coming until 2022. Let's see Skyrim 6 or whatever it is, Elder Scrolls 6. Let's see some big, heavy-hitting games. Something like The Last of Us. Yeah, something like The Last of Us from Initiative Studios. Maybe they get a license to a movie studio that we love. I don't know if this is even in the news. Breaking news today. I put it in our group chat earlier. IO Interactive, the company that makes Hitman, has just got the license to make Project 007. Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, dude.
Well, that's
and like
fine.
you can imagine how Hitman is, how he walks and he's very chill and gets his gun out and do. You can imagine that they're gonna blend that open world with probably a bit more fast pace. They'll have to rework the engine on the character himself.
Right. I was
but
just
that's
gonna
just
say
a little bit of
that's odd. I mean, do you think they'll do scenes, like Hitman with James Bond?
yeah.
Instead of an open world game where
I don't know
like
because
a
they
movie
said
cinematic.
we're gonna tell. They're doing
That's
his origin story. It's James Bond's origin story. They said our newest project. It's pretty interesting. Check it out, guys. There's a trailer out right now, but it's only like 30 seconds. It's a teaser. Anyway, to stay on track.
Well,
the
I
next
just want
list.
so I do want to discuss also best score, because that's another interesting one. There is Doom Eternal, Final Fantasy VII, Hades, Ori, and The Last of Us Part 2. Now I think Ori has a strong contention here for best score. I
Final
personally
Fantasy
think
7 for me.
Bro, Final Fantasy, orchestras to do all that music. It's like the art director in that they go around the world and tour and do these gigantic Final Fantasy massive music concerts. Like it's
they
ridiculous.
made the music from the first game better somehow.
Yeah, it's like going around and buying the music was a thing for the game. Everywhere you went, you'd get free music that you got to collect throughout the whole thing, like original tones from the game, and it was awesome.
That's pretty badass.
I'm going Final Fantasy 7 all day.
Ooh, that's hard.
Yeah.
That's
I don't
hard.
know if it's Hades, but how I'm looking at it is, like Mike said, they could have easily messed that one up, and they did so good. I was cheesing the whole time I played. Anytime it was time for Cloud to get his big sword out, it didn't matter how many times I heard the battle song. I was ready to rock.
Bro, but I don't know, man. Doom Eternal's the big one there. I think that's they're
heavy metal
really
in it, yeah.
Yeah, they are. They're really big into making sure that music that like people will buy that album. But that's the same thing for Final Fantasy. People buy those albums too. Like in Japan, those are huge.
Well,
That's
what's your pick, Mike? What's your pick? You going Final Fantasy or you going Doom?
I think I have to go Final Fantasy in that one. I have to, but Hades is fantastic. That's so tough. I think Hades and Doom Eternal have a pretty big argument to go against each other there.
Okay, so with that wrapping up all of our there is a couple more subcategories, but they're less of the mainstream here. We're gonna go straight into Game of the Year because I know that's a larger conversation. Nick, why do you look like you're in night mode right now?
I'm pulling up the high input chat so I can just see if anybody's chatting away. So
I got you. So we do have our Game of the Year contenders here. Now they did give us 6 instead of 5 on this category. We have our Final Fantasy VII Remake, our Ghost of Tsushima, Hades, and The Last of Us Part 2, along with Doom Eternal, and new to any other category, Animal Crossing New Horizon by Nintendo. So they caught an exclusive themselves on this list. Nick, I know you have some opinions strongly about this conversation. What do you got going here?
It's Animal Crossing. It has to be.
Animal Crossing.
This is a game that took the world by storm. It was a movement. It wasn't just a game. It was a movement. It moved people. It helped people in the pandemic. It sold consoles. It moved so many consoles you couldn't get your hands on Nintendo Switch because everybody wanted to play Animal Crossing. It got people who didn't play games playing games. It got people who did like games going back to their Switches and picking it up for the first time in many, many years. It's selling as many copies as it's their basically their number one selling game outside of Mario Kart Deluxe, which I believe was a launch title for them. Animal Crossing is absolutely fantastic. I think what they've done, supporting the game wise, giving you your Halloween treats, giving you your Christmas treats, giving you a turnip market. Is that correct, Mike? How you have these turnips that you collect,
and they've just
like a black stat.
They sold 22 million copies, and yeah, that's a lot. By August,
it's a lot.
August, they sold 22 million copies.
And they don't even have a new console out. They don't care that they don't have a new console out. They are happily selling as many as they can. I imagine sometime in April we'll hear that there's an HD Switch coming, or 4K Switch coming. And I think Animal Crossing New Horizons is absolutely... I'm surprised that... Fall Guys, is that the one? Yeah, I'm surprised Fall Guys didn't make the list instead of Doom Eternal. I think that would have been a nice one here, considering
that's the biggest. That's quite honestly the biggest shakeup of this entire breakdown here. How Fall Guys is not on this list, even if not on Game of the Year, which it should be. But maybe even in.
And I know we're not the only outlet who feel that way. A lot of other outlets this morning were saying that Doom Eternal is really the eyebrow raising one. As if to say, like, great game, but, like, look how Fallout kind of did for a little while what I believe Animal Crossing has done all year.
Fall Guys.
Fall Guys, sorry, yeah.
But I don't think the hype lasted nearly as long for Fall Guys as
it didn't. And what I'm saying is that hype was big for Fall Guys for a couple months. The Animal Crossing fever never left. There were talk shows made by Animal Crossing. There were celebrities playing Animal Crossing. You would get a celebrity like what's his name's wife, John Legend's wife, and
Chrissy
she would
Teigen.
end up. Yeah, she would end up tweeting out like, "Oh my gosh, have you seen the turnip prizes today? Everybody needs to go and play," and everybody would go and play. And so,
Nuke's asking, "What about Among Us?"
Among Us, yeah, very special.
Yeah, that was another one.
I mean,
that came out in 2018. That
I don't think there's enough in that game to call it a game of the year, though.
If I'm not mistaken, it is up for best mobile game. And
that makes sense.
We see a lot of from the few outlets I listened to this morning. They were saying like, look, the game did come out in 2018. It was even in beta in 2017. Does that make it right to be considered for best mobile game in 2020? I think the general consensus around the web is yes,
yeah,
it does.
Of course. It's the best game in this year, not best game of the year
100%.
That was made and released in this year.
I think the reason it wasn't put into game of the year is because of its actual wording on the award. People would say, well, that it just can't count. A lot of people talking about today how Cyberpunk 2077 has been snubbed because it's not coming out until December 10th. with a lot of people believing the same thing I messaged you guys about, saying that perhaps Cyberpunk 2077 could be the first game to come out in a previous year and win the next year's game of the year.
I think you're
Man,
smoking crack.
I don't know if we can. I don't know if we can know that. I don't. We have no idea what's going to come out next year, do we? I mean, not enough.
We got enough of an idea to think that if God of War 2 and Horizons 2 and those games do make it before the end of cutoff next year, there's not an assumption that Cyberpunk's going to walk the line and win Game of the Year next year. I think
there's an assumption that it'll be considered. It'll certainly be considered. If you're talking about the top 5 games, remember how we talk about The Witcher now. A game came out in 2016.
Bro, what
we'll be talking about Cyberpunk doesn't even launch their multiplayer until 2022.
What if we got a Skyrim in December of 2021?
Well, that would be way faster than we.
They're not done putting out Skyrim on the PS5 and Xbox Series X yet.
So no, I know.
There is a conversation about best ongoing game, and Apex Legends, obviously, Fortnite, obviously, Call of Duty Warzone, Destiny 2, and No Man's Sky, which I think is an awesome addition to the best ongoing game.
It almost feels like they threw that in there because they didn't have one to fill the slot. I
really?
Do feel
you
like
think so?
Compared to Fortnite's running with that one. Running. Yeah.
Maybe.
And any category that has Fortnite in it is winning.
Fall Guys is under Best Indie. Best Indie Game is under Fall Guys. Carry On, Hades, Fall Guys, Spelunky. Spelunky too. That's a game I've been meaning to play, man. I've been hearing great things about that. And a game called Spiritfarer. And Nuke, here is the best mobile game here. I have that up on screen share on the stream so you guys know. Among Us is under Best Mobile Game. Genshin Impact, Pokemon Cafe, Legends of Runeterra. Might have to check that. That looks interesting. And Call of Duty Mobile, which is going to be really hard to beat.
Legends of Runeterra is good.
Among Us is going to win Best Mobile Game of the Year.
I don't know, Nick. I think Call of Duty Mobile's taking that one.
I think you guys are wrong. I think Genshin Impact could run away with that.
Well, look at that. We got a little divisive, little side bet going on.
You got people spending thousands of dollars trying to unlock shit.
The winner gets a pizza.
I win.
Winner gets a pizza. Yeah, best community support. Valorant made best community support. So does No Man's Sky.
Wow. Well,
best community support. No Man's Sky.
Support, but
Fortnite's on there. Fortnite, Apex, Destiny 2, and Fall Guys are all on that. Oh, here it is, Mike. Here's best VR. I knew I heard it on here. So best VR, Half-Life Alyx, Dreams, Marvel's Iron Man VR, Star Wars Squadrons, and The Walking Dead Saints and Sinners.
Ooh, that's...
it's gonna be. Is that Half-Life Alyx is the second one?
That's the second one, yeah.
It's Half-Life Alyx all day long. There isn't a game that will ever be that good.
Saints and Sinners is a really good game, too. But Alyx should run away with that, without a question. What did Alyx get, a 10?
A 10, yep.
Perfect 10, yeah. I mean, there's...
They said that it was the
best game
ever made.
Mike, is Dreams a PS exclusive? It is, right? That's unfortunate. I was going to say you should snap that up on the Quest. I really want to check that out in VR. Nick, you should get that on the Quest or on the PSVR. I want to see
VR now that we're getting a PS5 so we can use it with the PS5.
That's legit. Innovation and accessibility. Grounded is on here. Innovation and accessibility. Oh, I was reading about this. So they think Grounded made the list for their arachnophobia slider where, because it says innovation and accessibility. So, obviously,
I turn a spider into a fluting ball.
Yeah, pretty much. But like just showing that they were innovative enough to create a new way to make it accessible for people with strange or different ways to go about it.
The Last of Us is in that category, aren't they?
The what?
The Last of Us is in.
Last of Us is definitely in that category.
With it because they have a whole bunch of settings that turn on that allow you to enjoy it if you have any accessibility problems.
So is Assassin's Creed Valhalla. And Watch Dogs Legion.
They have a bunch as well, yeah. I think everybody's starting to move towards making games accessible. You know, one of the biggest problems for a lot of people that have problems using their thumb is that you used to have to tap a button to get past a certain point in a game, and some people couldn't do that. Holding down the button was never the option. now you can toggle. Do you want certain scenes to be tap or just hold? You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's smart. That makes sense.
I realized to just hold, or prefer to hold.
Ooh,
Yeah,
best
right.
sim strategy game. Crusader Kings 3, which is a kick-ass, super complicated, medieval, badass game.
Yeah, that's good.
Microsoft Flight Simulator is in this category.
Oh boy.
And,
Is it just called Best Sim?
best sim / strategy game. So it's a little bit of a combo category here. However, what in the hell is this? XCOM Chimera Squad is in this game in this category.
Squad, not a DLC.
I don't know, but I need to find out right now. We have got to get it. Yeah, Nuke's asking, where the hell's American Truck Simulator?
Right.
April 23rd, 2020, Chimera Squad delivers an
2017.
all-new story and turn-based tactical combat experience in the
Oh
XCOM
my-
universe.
Is that a whole new game, or is this DLC for XCOM? Whole new game. Oh my god, I'm buying that tonight. Hell yeah, I did not know.
Hold him to it, Mike. Hold him to it.
What?
I want to see gameplay next week of you XCOMing it up.
Dude, I put 70 hours into XCOM 2. I love XCOM, man. That
It's
game
$20.
is, that game is so very good.
$20 on PC.
What? $20?
$20 on PC.
Bet. Maybe my rig can run it. We'll see. Well, I think that pretty much wraps. I mean, most of these categories are best multiplayer game, obviously. Animal Crossings is in best multiplayer. I bet they win that. They're not going to take game of the year, but they might win best multiplayer. Nuke's saying Desperados 3 is an amazing game. That's in best sim strategy game. I've never heard of Desperados 3.
It's supposed to be very, very good.
It's not a top-down shooter, but a top-down western.
Why the hell is that in best sim strategy? Is that because it's like a game like XCOM, like turn-based strategy game?
It's just it's turn-based.
Oh, cool. Cool. Well, yeah, I think that wraps up our conversation about the Game Awards. I think we've all met our...
It does, but we can also blend what we're talking about into the... We only have... What, we have 3 topics? Yeah, we can also just quickly come off the idea that... I guess PlayStation 5, True have mentioned that... Is this Jim Ryan? Okay, so here we go. Jim Ryan has said from PlayStation that true generation-defining games won't come until 2022. I know we briefly coursed over this in the last hour or so. We've been talking 45 minutes, but it is something to note that everything you're playing, at least this side of Christmas, this is another reason I'm telling people, don't rush out the doors and don't be too worried if you can't get your hands on a console just now. Assassin's Creed Valhalla is going to look relatively the same on your Xbox Series X as it looks on your Xbox One X. They're running at similar frame rates. I believe one is 3060, 1080p, 4K. The other one is 3060, 1080p, 4K with a little bit of enhanced graphics. And Assassin's Creed Valhalla doesn't even have ray tracing. So everybody, relax. These next-gen games are not coming yet. The closest thing we're going to get to a next-gen game this side of Christmas should be Cyberpunk 2077. And even then, I believe if you have a suitable PC, you should be able to handle it with an ease. And I'm still interested to see how an Xbox One X or how a PS4 Pro, not necessarily the base PS4s, but I'd like to see how well the Xbox One X and PS4 Pro run these Cyberpunk 2077 before I justify any concern over not being able to get my hands on a $500 upgrade.
There is a conversation that they do struggle.
Yeah?
Yeah, there has been talk about them struggling to run it pretty good. So that is concerning.
I think we've had this conversation a lot. I have a hard time believing that without a lot of work and drivers and updates, I think it's going to be a while before these consoles can deliver. And I think the expectations have to be tempered a little bit. And I think they are getting there right now with like you're saying, the reports that are coming out. They are already struggling.
Concerns are still, they wanted this console to be the one where you didn't have to choose anymore. Where PlayStation 4 has always been, do you want the best resolution or do you want the best frame rate? And everybody thought coming into this Xbox Series 1, Series X, and this PlayStation 5 talk that was all going to go away. That we could finally just get our 64K ray tracing And it's still, like Mike said, until they really figure out how these machines work and they get under the hood with the architecture, and you do get a company that knows how to make a beautiful game like Rocksteady or Naughty Dog or Rockstar. I know we always bring up those three, but they're like the holy grail of gaming at the moment. Then you'll start to see the true power. Now, what you're seeing is not that you're seeing some power. You're seeing the power of the SSD, and you're seeing the power of the upgraded graphics. But you have yet to see the true power of what real coding can do on these machines when you really get all the hardware to speak to each other correctly. I bet these machines can pump out some beautiful frame rates and some beautiful graphics. It just takes time.
Well,
I want to say, oh, go ahead.
I'm just saying, I have my PS4 in my living room, and to use my PS4 for anything at all is a huge pain in the ass, and it's mostly to do with the hard drive. So the fact that that SSD is bringing to the table some instant load times for everything from turning it on and getting our boot time to the point where it's like an instant boot to getting into a game to getting into something like Spotify or Netflix is such a pain in the ass on the PS4. It takes literally, like, I know it sounds ridiculous, like, it takes us a minute and a half to get into an app, but like, that shouldn't be happening from boot time. Booting it up, taking 30, 45 seconds to boot up, getting into the TV video aspect of the applications, then getting into Netflix. It's like all of these processes take a shitload of time. And over the course of owning the console for the past 7 years, the amount of time I've spent in those loading increments has been monumental. And I'm, for one, mostly buying it to eliminate that waiting time for trying to go in between applications, and just getting that instant load speed for everything, I think, is my number one reason for jumping into the console. Not so much the performance, which there is a massive performance increase, enough to justify at least assisting the buy. But for me, the main reason for the purchase is going to be our instant loading for every application, not just games.
I think the expectation should be more current top tier performance, but at better frame rates. Like, let's say PS4 Pro and Xbox One X performance, but at 60 to 120 frames.
You're not going to get that.
Both of those consoles play in 4K, and let's put this, because we know the PS4 Pro upscales to 4K, and the Xbox One X plays native 4K, but what if you're getting those top levels, but at better frame rates? I mean,
as long as they can pursue those better frame rates, because they've already said Spider-Man running at 30 in 4K, that's not acceptable for me as far as next gen is concerned. You can put all the ray tracing on you want. I'd rather you take it off and just give me 4K 60 at this point, and just tell us that the console can't do ray tracing. I'm fine with that. And then the idea that you said some games will be able to do 120, not you, PlayStation, and some games will be able to do 60, but they never really told you that, that means that some games will have to be doing 30. And I never really thought 30 FPS was going to be something we were talking about in 2020. I thought that was going to be a thing of the past. I really thought that these consoles had beefed up GPUs. They were talking about them being like 2080 Ti's in there. I know that if I had a 2080 Ti right now and I was playing Assassin's Creed Valhalla, I'd be getting way more than, even in 4K. You'd be getting around 50 frames, 45 frames. I've looked up the stats. And that's true 4K, Mike, not even up res like you're talking about. So, little disappointing. I'm not saying that this isn't fantastic. I'm all about it. But Chris is, you've always told me that, when we were going from PlayStation 3 to 4 and PlayStation 4 to PlayStation Pro, your biggest thing that I never could take a hold of was you would say, well, dude, it's only a little bit better, but you tell me how it looks that much better than this game over here. And I never really noticed that, but we have got to a point now where unless it is genuinely running like shit, and that will suck, and I do think 2077 is going to be that way, people are having a ball with Assassin's Creed on a PS4 Pro.
Right.
And I can't imagine I would recommend somebody that has a PS4 Pro or an Xbox One X right now, yeah, man, go get a $500 system. Do you know how hard it is to sell your current systems? I got lucky because I sold mine about 2 months ago. My brother's currently trying to sell his PS4 and nobody wants it because everybody is now fully aware of what's coming. The cat's out the bag, basically. Everybody is aware that, how can you even say, well, I've got this used PlayStation with a bunch of games for $300. Someone's like, yeah, well, for another $100, I could get the newest one.
Yeah,
You
that's a terrible deal. He needs to be dropping that to $200 all day long, and he'll get.
Yeah,
100%.
yeah, for sure.
But either way you look at it, I mean, it's still like we looked up how much a PlayStation 4 Pro is right now in Walmart. It's $419 right now. $419 for a PlayStation 4 Pro. I can't believe that it's literally the same price they're
You know
selling
why?
price for. Because you can't buy them.
Because it's there.
No, because you're probably getting about the same quality current games.
Mm-hmm.
What you're getting?
100%.
Currently.
Now,
You know?
do I think a Series X is going to be able to run certain games way better? Yes. The NBA 2K21 is the proof in the pudding. The game looks great. It runs great. And it's doing things that a PlayStation 4 version can't do. There's a reason why the PlayStation 4 NBA 2K21 is rocking the neighborhood online. And NBA 2K21 on the next gen is rocking the city. And it does fall a little bit in line to when Grand Theft Auto released their motorcycles pack update for Grand Theft Auto Online, and they finally said, this is only for PS4. This cannot fit on a PS3. We're no longer going to support any more online updates for the PS3. If you'd like any motorcycle updates, if you'd like to move forward with the rest of the DLC, you have to come over here to next gen. And I don't doubt that's coming. We've seen it with NBA 2K21. Whether or not they could have done the city on past gen, I'm not sure. I haven't played the game yet. I'm assuming they couldn't have. I think it was just too big. But yeah, man, next gen's here. It's just the game's going to take some time. They've always taken some time. This is something that this is not to say that this isn't a kick-ass launch lineup. And if you got $500 laying around, buy this console because there are some sweet games. Sackboy on the PlayStation 5 is getting rave reviews. Assassin's Creed Valhalla is a great game to open up on your next gen console. It's exciting that you've got Phoenix. What is it?
Immortals. Phoenix Rising.
Rising coming out December 3rd, followed by your Cyberpunk 2077, and then whatever games we've got dropping in the new year. So, and you can imagine that with the Game Awards coming out, that there are going to be some announcements, at least some teaser trailers for what to look forward to in the coming year. So
I think it's going to be exciting. I think next year is going to be pretty exciting. I think it's going to be good. I mean, that's the whole reason why I bought an Xbox Series X today, is because I think it's going to be good.
Really hoping that the games are good, and like you said, that stock holds so everyone can get one. I know that Mike just snuck in there that he was able to pick up an Xbox Series X today.
It took a lot of refreshes, even while I was in my cart and entering my address and credit card information, but I was able to get one. I for some reason I have a strange feeling that I think in the hardware department, I think Microsoft's gonna win this time. Well, you know, I think they had the more powerful console even in the One X, right?
Yeah, they didn't bank on the exclusives.
I think it's gonna come down to the extras this time too. I think.
If they get some good exclusives, then PlayStation has to match Game Pass.
Well,
and they've already got a head start.
I think accessibility is huge now. I think if I use my Xbox One S for entertainment purposes, mostly. I don't really do a whole lot of gaming on it, but that's because I have a gaming PC. You know, now I can, with the One X, I get my entertainment even faster because the entire console is faster. Everything loads faster. Everything moves around faster. I mean, I think it's a worthwhile upgrade.
You can play PC games,
and I can play PC games anymore. Right, you're absolutely right. But I think the world is attached to streaming far more than they were when the Xbox One came out. I think that's going to play a bigger role in this console, and that includes things like xCloud, which is something that you're going to be able to take advantage of with these consoles as well.
I think PlayStation are going to be eating their announcement. Remember when they said a couple months back that we will only have a limited amount of consoles available this Christmas, not because we cannot stock them, because we don't believe the demand is there. And then they go and sell 12
Did you see
hours. In 12 hours, they sold as many PlayStation 5s as they sold PS4s in 12 weeks.
That's absurd.
That is insane.
How they thought the demand wasn't going to be there, though, is just asking.
Yeah, it would have been $1 billion. Chris, we talked about this months ago. It would have been one of those mistakes where if you got that wrong, you sunk the whole company.
And
You
Xbox,
couldn't-
I want to say Microsoft sold a bit more in the same period of time. I think numbers for both of them came out.
It's crazy, man. That's absolutely. I heard they didn't even tell us. They haven't even released how many they've actually sold. They're just talking. That's just a
I
statistic.
know that you can get November 25th is your next shot at Walmart to get a PlayStation or an Xbox at 7 p.m. and then after that,
You're right.
29th.
Yeah, they haven't released it because I was
No,
curious. I'm like, how many?
Microsoft
I was-
won't release it.
I was curious. I'm like, how many did they make? If there's this much of a difficulty in getting our hands on it, I'm like, how many do they sell? Like, are we talking hundreds of thousands of units? Are we talking 8,000 units? Are we
Microsoft
talking
said
18 units? Like, what are we talking about?
Microsoft said they've been making them for 60 days. And
We-
Phil Spencer said that he has to ramp up production because the number one question he gets. Now, remember, the head of PlayStation, Jim Ryan, he is a bit more of a business suit guy, right? He'd be harder to talk to and have a one-on-one with. Phil Spencer's one of the guys who came in and just had to correct all of the mistakes at Xbox. And so he's like the guy that came up with this, like, gamers first. Let's give them Game Pass. Let's give them the games first. Let's just give them value is what he does. And he's like, the number one tweet I get texts on my phones, I get calls all day. The number
like
one
Phil
question is, why don't you put more consoles on the shelves? And he's like, I know we made a mistake and I'm sorry and we're working on getting them out. And I'm like, you believe you can believe him. He feels like this guy who's having his dream month right now where, like, he turned the whole company around. The console comes out and, like, there aren't Xbox on the shelves and PlayStations are sold out. You know what I mean? Like, no. Every time that PlayStation have said we got games, Xbox have been ready and they've both sold out. So at the moment, it's a beautiful tie across the board. And, like,
Depends
I
how
believe,
many they made.
well, I believe this is no longer a race for the next gen. Next gen's here, baby. This is a race to be the first to production. The company that can put their PlayStation or their Xbox on the shelf first is going to get the head start, because I can tell you for a fact right now, as an excited gamer, if you put one or the other in front of me and I can only afford one, I'm grabbing whichever one I can get my hands on. My son was crying himself to sleep last night because he was like, I don't think we're going to be able to find a PS5 before Christmas. First world problems. And I'm like, bro, they'll be there. You just have to, like,
They might not.
I was gonna say, it's ridiculous, bro. It took them a week to restock at Walmart.
I don't
week.
think there's as many as we fucking think there are. I bet they're holding those
I
numbers
mean, my
back.
words. I said it was all bullshit. I don't think they fucking have them. I don't
I
think.
think they do. I think they
Oh,
just.
man.
I think they've
No,
shipped
bro.
out because a lot of people have them online. Remember, there's a lot more streamers
There's
and
a-
influencers now,
that's
and they
what
gave
I'm-
them all that first.
That's
Bro.
what I'm saying.
Greg
There
Miller
isn't
got
a
one.
lot.
Blessing got one.
Yeah, but-
Kevin's got one.
Yeah, but that's like those are top tier names you're dropping here in the industry. I mean, they're literal judges in the
Yeah,
Game
but
of the Year
shouldn't-
awards. Like, I mean, that's
I know.
Shouldn't
But
they have had,
imagine
like,
that. There's so many more
300,000 of
companies
them
now than there were
sitting in
7
a
years
fucking
ago. You
warehouse?
gotta give 5 out to Kind of Funny, 10 out to IGN,
Yeah, but
10 out to GameSpot.
we're asking.
Yeah.
There needs to be hundreds of thousands, right? Like,
I'm assuming there are.
We're not talking about Joe Schmo's fucking
have-
7-Eleven over
Yeah.
here making, like,
have
coffees. We're
3
talking about
people.
Microsoft.
I have 3 people on my. I have like 3 people on my friends list right now, and they don't have the PlayStation logo anymore. It's the PlayStation 4 logo, the tower standing up, and that's just on my friends list. Like people like Dan in town, Big
Yeah.
Dan.
hmm
He's got one. I couldn't believe it. I messaged him today. I said, "Dude, how did you get one?" He's like, "Oh, I pre-ordered it, man." Like.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's people out getting them. I'm not saying they don't exist. I know they.
I know what you're
exist.
saying. There needs to be hundreds of thousands of them. I get that. I think that.
What is the
It's
amount?
it's by the millions that people game now, and I also think that games weren't this cool in 2007. Like when me and my brother were in the line at Best Buy to get video games, you knew who was there to get a console on day one. You were like, okay, let's go. We could break out the Dungeons and Dragons table. I can say that because I played D&D.
Yeah.
You knew who you were in good company, and like this time around, especially with the pandemic, like scalpers have got no concert tickets to sell, so they're like, we're gonna just sell the other hot commodity, which is consoles. And then you've got people staying at home who have nothing better to do than entertain themselves. And then like they came out with this, like how like when like you're both married, like when you have an anniversary or when you have a wedding or when you have a Christmas and your birthday's near Christmas and your wife wants to get you something. She can't get you like a lawnmower every year, and she can't get you like, it came out at this perfect time where it's like, it's not too expensive either. Like it would be egregious to be like, babe, can you get me a $900 PC for my birthday?
Yeah.
But like a $400 present for birthday and Christmas or something like that, or like, can you get me this for whatever? It's such a great price point that like I can see now why the average person is like, hey, I'm looking for an Xbox for my boyfriend. Yo, I'm looking for an Xbox for my son. Yo, I'm looking for an Xbox. Everybody's looking to buy it as the go-to gift for the either adult male, child, teenager.
Adult female.
100%. You're right. Sorry about that. But they have 100% cornered the market with getting everybody interested in the console. And now that everybody wants to play, I'm not surprised that you can't get your hands on them. I mean, they advertise them so well.
No one's
they've been
surprised.
sitting underneath people's TVs
better.
playing their Netflix for years. They've been just psychologically trained to need a PS4.
My question, Nick, is how did these companies, who are multi-billion-dollar enterprises, get it so wrong? How did they miss the mark on their productivity testing? And my bet is not that they got it wrong, but that they knew they couldn't meet demand, and that they knew that with COVID and with all of the productivity, all the supply line issues that they've been having because of COVID, they are not able to hit the mark, and they're trying to do damage control as best they can to just compete with their competitor. If they can just make sure that when they sell out, Xbox is also selling out, and that they're just making as much as Xbox can make too, and vice versa, that's the race. They just need to make sure they're in stock, roughly making the same amount that the other makes. How are they both not making enough? What? That's my point. There's not enough shit to make these consoles. I think that over east we're having issues with the productivity from a supply level. The same reason we're running out of toilet paper on the shelves in Walmart is the same reason I think we don't have PlayStation and Xboxes on the shelves.
They've admitted that. They've said that also this generation, more of the phones are using the same chips that the consoles need, and that wasn't the case in 2007. So it's harder to get many of these chips that were being used for the new Samsung phones. So they're trying their best, and I think that, again, if you make 2 million consoles too many and they don't ship, you sank your whole company. You're not going to be releasing another PlayStation for a while. You're going to have to do some redistribution. I think it's always better to sell out than to have any left over, and I think that even if they played it marginally safe by 10%, you just couldn't prepare for this. 12 weeks of sales in 12 hours. How do you predict that? Maybe you could have said, guys, we're going to get 12 weeks of sales in 5 weeks. This is going to be hot. Maybe you could have said, we're going to get 12 weeks of sales in 2 weeks. Prepare. This is going to get hot. But when you saw those pre-orders come in, you're looking down and it's 12 hours into your release. And you're like, this is more than we shipped in 12 weeks. We're not ready for this. I understand.
It's actually shocking, with the way the world is and unemployment and stuff like that. They couldn't have expected it, right? Like nobody can afford to even buy this thing right now. But holy shit, how did we sell out of so many of these things?
On credit cards, people grabbing the last of their savings, people grabbing their unemployment, whatever it takes.
No, man, people have money. Millions of people have money.
People definitely have money, because if you look at this, I'm telling you, I saw there had to be 1,500 Xbox One X's sold for $900 today on eBay.
No, 100%. People are buying these machines and they are enjoying these machines. I'm simply just saying that. I agree with you guys 100%. I don't want to get too off topic. We should probably even wrap that one up.
Maybe.
Well, what else do you have to say on the
No, that's it. I agree with you 100%. That I just personally think there's an ulterior reason as to why these consoles are selling out in literal seconds, and I don't think it's that they just had no idea. I think they had an absolute idea because these are billion-dollar enterprises that do product testing and market research, and for them to miss the mark on selling out in 12 hours, so much so that you guys waited and couldn't even get one in seconds, not 12 hours, we're talking in seconds.
Yeah, but the marketing was good too, because I wasn't going to buy one. Now I'm going to buy one. I wasn't going to buy one 2 weeks ago. So what does that say about their marketing?
Not good.
Mike had no
they left money on the table.
5 minutes they were gone. The entire restock at Walmart was gone.
When you say money on the table, there's nowhere else to go, Chris, other than Xbox, because you're not getting a PS, you're not getting a PC.
There is.
And Walmart only lets you pick up one at a time. So even if people are scalping, all right, so what, they're getting one?
Yeah, no,
all I'm saying is there's nowhere else to go. Like, if you can't get an Xbox or a PS5, you're not going to go to the third console.
I get what you're saying, but the argument as a company, you've done your market research. You know.
Yeah, but they don't know. They make money. As long as they make money, they're fine.
I guess. I think
they're not looking at it that way. They're going to look at it like, are we going to still sell a bunch of consoles in January, February?
Think if you're a company, right? You're the company. You're Sony, and you're launching your PS5. Do you get it so wrong that you're selling out in seconds? To where you don't have enough to even give them?
I think that with the pandemic, you couldn't have got it any more right than this.
No more right than seconds? You couldn't get it any better than seconds?
I think that they didn't think that 12 weeks of supply was going to sell out in 12 hours. I mean, think about how much 12 weeks of supply is.
What does that even mean? Because they didn't have it available for 12 hours. This shit hasn't even been available for 12 minutes online. Like, what is this 12-hour conversation?
I guess they're saying their pre-orders. When their pre-orders went live, they sold out in the first 12 hours, I guess.
They sold out in minutes.
Not the pre-orders. You could email into PlayStation and they would send you out a permission to pre-order.
So they had pre-orders available for up to 12 hours. So for 12 hours, if you wanted one, you could go on to PlayStation and get one for 12 hours.
I'm assuming that they sent emails out to people saying you are eligible to be a PlayStation 5 pre-order, and within 12 hours, those people that had been emailed had probably all responded and agreed to it. But that's the quote states. I'll pull it up right here. Either way you look at it, there's no money left on the table as long as they get them out before Xbox get theirs out, because there's nowhere else to go. You're not going to go buy a PS3.
That's a big what if. I mean, what if they don't? Then yes, they did.
They are doing so good. I'm pretty impressed that they had them out last Saturday between 3. They had them out at 3 p.m.
Terrible
12
business
p.m.,
decision.
3 p.m., 6 p.m., and 9 p.m. Then they had them again today at 12.
Mike, whenever you guys talk at the same time, you both cut out. So I didn't. Mike, what did you say?
I said I would bet that Microsoft has sold 10 times the amount of PlayStations.
I would argue.
I would agree. I bet PlayStation.
Go look on eBay and how many are available right now. I don't think that's because Microsoft is selling less consoles on eBay, like that it's less desirable. I think there's more of them out there.
Bro, you're out of mind. I'm looking at PlayStation 5s right now. If you hunt by the hundreds.
Yeah, you could say that for both of them, though. But it's
hundreds aren't the conversation. We're talking about thousands. We're talking about millions.
No, I'm talking. No. We're not
hundreds.
talking. Mike just said he thinks that the Xbox has sold more. I disagree. I'm looking at as many PS5s on eBay as he's saying he saw Xbox. I'm saying PS5 was always going to sell more than Xbox. It was coming off of a huge runoff.
They will sell more, even in the long term, I think. Whoever gets the head start, it doesn't fucking matter. In 2 years from now, Sony's going to sell twice as much as Xbox is. But, I mean, it
all comes down to those subs, bro.
I think it all comes down to the, console sales. You're talking, out east. Microsoft doesn't touch what Sony does out east, So, I mean, when you're talking consoles worldwide, I don't think
that conversation. What's his name? Phil Spencer went to Japan and was just jaw on the floor how many consoles he had sold in Japan compared to Sony. They had sold 100,000 in the time that PlayStation had sold millions.
Yeah. I mean, there's just not a conversation.
God.
What?
$700 is what they want for the PS5, basically. So they are similar prices, like Mike said, between $700 and $800 for a resale.
I think
Shit,
that's
I was looking at $1,200 on eBay earlier for the PS5.
I got one here $830, one here $1,500. But again, this could be bids, right? This is 15 bids at $830.
Yeah, you gotta look at
so
the ones
yeah,
that
they're
actually
buy
sold.
now.
Yeah, you got to look at completed and sold listings. So I'm looking at 33 pages, and it's still going. I can't get it to go. 33 pages at 200 each page. That's 6,600 Xboxes for sale right now on eBay, and it's still going.
Yeah, I'm up to page.
That's not
30
including.
PS5.
That's not including the people. What do you, and how many do you have it sorted by? Do you have it items per page 200?
How do I do
Hey,
that?
Nuke has put in the chat that PS5 Japan sales numbers so far is 118,000 units. And Nintendo recently revealed that they've sold 735,000 Switch and Switch Lite units in the U.S. in October alone.
Yeah,
They've been the number one selling console for the last 24 months.
skyrocketing.
So let's ask this. Nintendo has sold 735,000 units in October in the U.S. And in Japan, Sony, who's a huge member of in the Japanese community, has sold 118,000 units. They don't have the product, period. It's not a question of did they misjudge the market. They didn't have the ability to make the product that they needed, period. They didn't sell 118,000 units in Japan when we sold here 700,000 units for Nintendo in 1 month. Like, they didn't fuck the market up that bad. They definitely just couldn't deliver the product, period. They don't have the ability.
They sold in Japan 309,154 units during its first week of sales for the PS4. So they knew.
They knew, hands down.
They knew.
And didn't.
How could they not know?
And they just didn't.
Because
have
of the year
ability.
we've had, it just seems like who was ready to spend $500? Who had $500 laying around?
You're giving them a lot more credit than that, brother.
20,000 Series X's sold between November 10th and 15th in Japan.
20,000.
But that's about normal for them
Right.
for Japan.
Sure.
Because in 2014 they sold 23,000 of them.
I don't know, bros. When this whole thing was kicking off, I had friends who would say things like, "Oh, bro, I ain't spending $1 of my money. Paper might be worthless in a couple months," right? Like things we didn't even know about back then, and they had to start to plan for this type of a launch at the end of the year. Of course, they weren't going to be banging out consoles left, right, and center. I mean, unless they made as many as they could make, and they didn't want to say that production was slow because of COVID-19, but of course it's slow because of COVID-19. It's the way the world works right now. Everything's a little bit delayed. Even your packages you order from Amazon are coming slower. So anyway,
market research is a thing, and I think these billion-dollar companies spend quite a bit of money on market research, and whether or not a couple fringe people think that their money ain't going to be worth nothing ain't going to change the fact of by hundreds of thousands of missed marks,
Ooh.
I don't know.
What are you looking at?
Interestingly, I stumbled upon this 13 Sentinels Aegis Rim review on IGN.
Yeah.
And the art style is pretty incredible.
Really?
Yeah, I see why it's up there.
It looks like your kind of game.
The entire thing is painted. It looks like paint.
Yeah, but it's like a comic book game, right?
No.
What's the game? What's it called?
Not exactly.
Aegis,
it looks to me like a
13
Flash
Sentinels?
game that I played in like 1993.
It's a 2D side-scrolling adventure story.
Ooh,
so
I like that shit.
It really, like, this looks really interesting. If you go to IGN and look it up, their review actually has some really good gameplay of it. It looks pretty cool. Sorry, that it took me away. I had that page out, and then I saw it. It was playing the video.
No, we'll probably skip over headline 3. It's just letting everybody know that despite EA Motive saying that they weren't going to bring DLC to Star Wars Squadrons, they are. They're going to bring new maps, new ships, and more modes. That includes the B-Wing and the TIE Defender. B-Wing is obviously a ship that everybody's been screaming about that wasn't in the game originally, so it's nice that they decided to update that, and also adding a new map to both the fleet destroying modes and the Star Wars Squadrons mode. is a welcome addition, I believe, because it just shows that they're listening to the viewers. And I think by the quote we read earlier, it basically said that, thanks for supporting us so much and giving us all these dollar bills. Here's one extra map and a couple new ships for all the support. So,
is there I know they're doing this DLC for free. Is there in-game purchases being allowed to be made in this game at all?
No in-game purchases allowed in that game. Everything is like they called it a $40 experience that, when you give them $40, it's everything in the game, kind of like a classic video game. It's just really nice to see them tacking on some extra stuff.
Good fan service.
What have we got here?
I mean,
I'm going to
great
breeze over
fan
this.
service, really, for a game that they're not going to make another $1 on, and just giving it to you for free is kind of interesting. That's unheard of, really, in most games.
Yeah, EA trying to
even
work their way back in.
Even CD Projekt Red charged for The Witcher. I mean, that's for their DLC. This is interesting. Why would they do this?
I think it's just because it's one map. It's one map and 2 ships. Perhaps it was something that was already supposed to be in the base game, and they were just finishing it off and decided, hey, man, let's tuck this in as DLC. Perhaps. But either way, maybe they did it because they made so much money. I believe the quote was like, we did not expect this type of support from you guys, and because you guys have continued to support, we'll take it from there. I'm going to do the new game impressions, and I'm going to pass the late to the party over to Chris, and then obviously the tech talk over to Mike. Do we have a tech talk today, or are we moving on?
Yeah, we do. And to be honest with you, it's getting a little bit late, so if you guys want, we can skip over it.
Okay.
We don't. It's already.
To sum up what's going on in Assassin's Creed Valhalla in 5 minutes or less, the game is really, really good. Performance issues aside, because I'm not going to talk about performance issues today. I think they'll all be fixed in a recent patch. I think that the game is great. Graphics are fantastic. Story is really immersive. Character development is great. I'm really enjoying everybody I'm meeting in the game and in the world. Side quests are very entertaining, and they keep you hooked long enough to feel like you're enjoying a side story, and not long enough to feel like you've been completely diverted from your general path. You don't get bogged down by a bunch of quests. It's very easy to stay on the true path of the story, unlike previous Assassin's Creed games that send you in different directions. The world building is fantastic, how you can now upgrade your settlement, and through upgrading your settlement, you can increase your raid abilities, your equipment that you wear, the things that you're able to purchase, get access to the black market, and things like that. I think that the way the map looks is absolutely fantastic, how you can go from the snowy mountains in Norway to some really, really nice green, lush, and this isn't really a spoiler, it's probably been advertised long now, in England, and you're getting to see some of the really nice terrain there. Do I recommend it for a buy? Absolutely. Do I think, like all Ubisoft games, it needs a little bit more time in the oven, so perhaps just 30 days before a patch pops up that'll take out some game-breaking glitches? Sure. But it's definitely worth a buy. It's something that I can imagine a lot of you guys would be enjoy playing over Christmas. So,
would you recommend, because of the bugs that you've had, would you more recommend it over on console?
No, because I've heard also that the bugs are just as rampant on console. Frame rate.
What about, would you do it on? Okay, are those only on the new consoles or on the old ones?
I've heard that this game is pretty plagued with bugs all over at the moment, much like its breadwinns before it, Assassin's Creed Origin and Assassin's Creed Odyssey. It's I think that Assassin's Creed, Ubisoft are just getting into making RPGs. This is their third one, obviously, in 6 years, and some RPGs that we love, a la The Witcher and Cyberpunk, take 6 years to make. So they're learning while they're making them, obviously, and I give them as much breathing room as they need. The fact that the game is as entertaining as it is, and I've heard fantastic stories about how they've redeemed the present day story, just go out and buy it, guys. I mean, if you like Vikings, you can't go wrong. And if you don't like the present day bullshit that they tie into Assassin's Creed in the, I can't remember how long I've been playing it for. What did I tell you guys? In the 30 hours I've been playing, I've been back to the real world for 10 minutes. It's fantastic to know that you're not.
That's my least favorite part of Assassins.
Yeah, mine too. Is it's good to get that backstory, but it really is like pulls you out of the world when you were getting into something good. So, yeah, 100%. And now speaking of Assassin's Creed, Chris is going to tell you a little bit about Assassin's Creed Origins.
So our late to the party segment is going to be a little bit about a game. If you don't have the 60 or in some cases $70 to throw at Assassin's Creed Valhalla, there's some games that you can pick up for less than a $20 bill that are very much worth playing in both of our opinions, or I guess all three of our opinions here. The game that we're going to be talking about tonight is going to be Assassin's Creed Origins. I think it ties, from what we've heard, there's quite a bit that goes into... Sorry, I'm trying to pull up a video of Assassin's Creed Origins while I'm talking about it here. But there's quite a bit from Origins that ties over into Valhalla. So obviously, if you don't know, it went from Assassin's Creed Origins, which was set in ancient Egypt, showing about the assassins' original start of their brotherhood, and then traveled into Assassin's Creed Odyssey, which I guess didn't really do a whole lot about discussing anything about carrying on the story of Origin, and Valhalla does a great deal about kind of sequeling directly from Origins. So if I was to recommend something, I would recommend playing Origins as someone who's played both. Origins was the greatest Assassin's Creed game, in my opinion, that I've played to date before, and that includes Odyssey, before Valhalla. Black Flag's probably second, but Origins, for the way the story went...
That's hard, man. Black Flag's
Black
good.
Flag was great. It was
so good.
Groundbreaking for its water mechanics, but Origins has those water mechanics and the ship battles in it. Along combined with obviously the Egyptian mythology, and then they go into the gods and into... obviously, the RPG mechanic gets introduced here in a very good way. The what?
Is it the Egyptian, the history? It's a very intriguing period, right?
Dude, it is incredible. And one thing that is very cool about this game, and I believe if I'm not wrong, they started out doing it on this game, was you can go into their exploration mode and actually view the map as like an Egyptian explorer, and it takes all the game mechanics out of it, and because it is mapped as ancient Egypt and has it is a vast game. And where they go with the storyline, couldn't recommend it any higher. I don't want to give you any spoilers, but for $16.99, which is what you can pick this game up at GameStop for, it's a no-brainer, man. Play this game. If you don't have the $70 to spend on Valhalla, for $16.99, you can have a hell of a lot of fun with Origin. It has aged quite well, considering the game came out in 2017. So it's barely 3 years old, and it plays like it. It's good. It's damn good.
I think it came out a little bit before. Was it? Yeah, I guess 2017.
Yeah, October 2017.
That's interesting. So
yeah, I mean, we had Odyssey in between this and Valhalla, so it is interesting. There is a little quick bit that other than the late to the party, because that's pretty much all I got to say about that. Buy that damn game. Nuke has a question for you, Mike. Where's your hat at, bro?
I actually just had it on. I had taken it off.
Oh, did you?
I was getting a little hot, yeah.
You're getting a little shiny, bro. Getting a little shiny with the LEDs. But yeah, that's about it for that. What do you think, Mr. Host Man?
No, I definitely agree with you. I was just looking up I couldn't believe Assassin's Creed Origins came out in 2017. Then we got Odyssey in 2019, and then what? Valhalla 1 year later? What's going on there? I thought that we had a couple years. I'm confused as you guys are at home. Yeah, no, I agree. I think that was a really, really good show. If you guys have any questions that you want to write in, go ahead and join us in our Discord, which will be thrown up in the chat. And if you do sub, when we finally do get the Patreon set up, you can join us for the post show now over in the Kodiak chat, where we're going to talk about your list of games and things that you're interested in this Game Award season. So I hope you enjoyed our input. As always, this was episode 13 as we're getting ready to roll out live come episode 15. I hope you guys join us. Thanks again, everybody, and stay gaming.